The first game on Friday night will be played between Michigan State and Ole Miss. Ole Miss, obviously, a lot of people thought they were going to lose their first game to UNC. I felt a little bit differently about that one. Um, I know you were kind of like on the fence with that one, but they're playing pretty good basketball right now. Just handed it to Iowa State last night. Michigan State kind of labored through their game against New Mexico. This line here right now is Michigan State minus 2.5. I feel like this number is kind of small. I don't know. I know Ole Miss is playing well, but I think Michigan State has some serious advantages on the offensive glass. Offensive rebound rate for Michigan State, 19th in the country. Ole Miss, 226th on the defensive glass. Like, I think the size and physicality of Michigan State just generating extra possessions is going to be a big problem for this Ole Miss defense. Now, I know Ole Miss is capable of turning these Michigan State guards over, and Ole Miss does allow a high percentage of threes, while Michigan State doesn't take a lot of them. We've talked about before with Michigan State, that's an area where they're not very efficient. And so if they're baited into taking a bunch of threes, then that could be trouble for them. But then again, they're going to have the advantage on the offensive glass. So I think that they'll be okay. So I think that Michigan State just has a bit too much size and physicality here for Ole Miss, which ultimately sends the Rebels home.
Yeah, that's the big concern for me. And I wish they could provide a little bit more resistance at the rim, because I would really like Ole Miss here, because I don't like how Michigan State really grades out against no middle schemes, and Ole Miss can keep them from the rim. They can keep them out of transition. Those are the two areas that Michigan State's offense is really any good. Like everywhere else, it's not very pretty, honestly. Like, I think the Sparty team is overvalued overall. I mean, they're 35th in adjusted offense, which is fine, but these defense-heavy teams typically fizzle out as the tournament goes on. Like we saw it with St. John's, and we've seen it with like Tennessee teams with Rick Barnes. Those teams always fizzle out. Sweet 16, Elite Eight's really the cap for these, defensive lopsided teams. So I want to say Ole Miss is going to win this game. The glass is so much of a concern, but I do like how Ole Miss can turn them over, keep them away from the rim, and I potentially like on the offensive end how Ole Miss's bigs can space out Michigan State's bigs, like spacing out Kohler, spacing out Cooper, Zapala. Like Malik Dia and Brakefield should be able to beat them off the bounce, I would think. And I like how these Ole Miss guards can operate in isolation. I know Sparty's a good isolation defense, but Ole Miss, they love to just break down the defense off the bounce. So I'm gonna go out on a limb and say Ole Miss is gonna win this game, but the glass is such a problem.
Yeah.
I hate how Michigan State grades out against no middle defenses. Ole Miss can keep you away from the rim. The only shooter I'm scared of is Jaden Akins, maybe Richardson, but he's gonna have the ball in his hands a lot, so he's not really gonna be able to create like any sort of catch and shoot 3-point opportunities. But I'm gonna ride the hot hand with Ole Miss. I'm gonna say they win.
Yeah, unless they get maybe like Trey Holloman 55-footers, then they can knock some down. But I'm gonna say Michigan State does get this done. However, I wouldn't be surprised to see either outcome. I'm gonna side with the physicality on the glass for Michigan State to ultimately win out here. And I'm gonna say that like Izzo is maybe okay living with like lightly contested threes from Brakefield and Dia, and just taking his chances there. Maybe not falling victim to like those bigs getting spaced out too much. But you never know. If those guys get hot, then they have to kind of change what they're doing, and that could throw the whole game plan off. So I think Michigan State wins a tight one here. And Ole Miss just kind of ultimately just goes home, but they could definitely battle in this one and get it done.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping we got Iowa State here because I thought Iowa State matched up just a little bit better, but Iowa State showed that their defense isn't really in all that good of a spot right now. So Ole Miss is the rightful team to be here. So I think they have some legs to win this game as well. It's more just me going out on a limb saying they're going to win this game. The glass is obviously a real issue, and Chris Beard knows that. So maybe I don't really know how they're going to keep them off the glass because there's no real personnel that they could throw out on the floor that's going to help them there. I guess more Malik Dia minutes would be the ticket, but he's not really a great defender. So yeah, it's not great on the glass, obviously, but I'm going to side with them anyway.
Yeah. So we'll see. Should be a tight game, I think. Probably down to the last couple of possessions, but we're split on what we think. So it should be a fun game between the Rebels and the Spartans.